Delta State in Nigeria's rainforest agrarian south prides itself on a sufficient of natural and human resources. Another factor which seems to have counted in the state's favor is the robustness of its politics and leadership selection process. Since 2015, Senator Ifeanyi Okowa has been holding the reins of power on the platform of the People's Democratic Party. How well has he done with it, especially as he promised from the start that he will commit enormous time and energy to improving the infrastructural and social integration outlook of Delta State? Joining us now to do an assessment as well as highlight the immediate plans of the Okowa administration as it winds down is Charles Aniagwu, journalist and current Commissioner for Information, Delta State. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Very well. Good to have you on the program. Delta with Governor Okowa, almost 7 years in the saddle. A lot of people say that, yes, there are a number of successes to record, but those who think that maybe another party should have a go at Delta State will easily point, at the rising, debt profile of Delta. They will say that the wage bill is increasing, and that for an oil-producing state like yours, that we do not seem to have monumental landmark achievements other than the usual is paying salaries, as at when due, is constructing roads, etc. In what area, in your own opinion, do you think that Governor Okowa stood out as a governor who has performed creditably well?
Well, thanks for raising a number of issues. Of course, flowing from your introductory remarks, you did acknowledge that other political parties, in spite of the fact that Senator Okowa has performed, are thinking of how they can come and possibly take a shot at the governance of the state. So like they say in football, changing a winning team is not usually the best decision. Now, you talked about the issue of paying salaries. We are not just paying salaries in Delta. Apart from the fact that we do that as at when due, we have also focused on a number of key areas in the area of infrastructure, in the area of human capital development, in the area of uniting the different ethnic groups in the state, which is why we are one of the most peaceful states in Nigeria today that is attracting a whole lot of investment across sectors. If you come to Delta today, you will see a whole lot of investment in infrastructure. The governor is not just called the road master for nothing, because we have built roads well over 1,600 kilometers across the length and breadth of the 25 local government areas that make up the state. But beyond the roads, which for us, we have taken it for granted that you have to construct roads for the purpose of linking communities, we have also built a number of bridges. We call it bridges of possibilities because we have been able to create a whole lot of possibilities across the different communities, particularly the riverine communities that were hitherto not were developed on account of the enormous amount of money that you require to construct even a kilometer of roads in the creeks. But beyond that, if you come to the state capital today, you will see a whole lot of change, starting from our airport that was built by the previous administration but upgraded by this administration, where we now have a whole number of airlines coming in and going out of the state. And then you also now come to the entertainment industry, where you do now see a whole lot being done. Today, we are building world-class entertainment center and a leisure park and village, where we are going to have our Nollywood that has done us well as a country. Today, those in that sector see Asaba as their headquarters. And we are building a film village that will accommodate this number of persons. If you come to the state capital again today, you will see our brand new state secretariat, which they now call the Worker City. When you get there, you see that there is nothing like that in this part of the world. When I mean this part, I'm talking about Nigeria. It's a secretariat that is called an intelligent building, houses a whole lot of facilities to ease work and then work-related activities within that territory. But beyond that, we have been able, which is the major thing that we see as our achievement, to take a whole lot of youths off the streets. When we came in, we didn't want to do the usual of just employing people into the civil service even when there is no vacancy. The governor decided, in line with his strategic wealth creation platform, to ensure that we build entrepreneurs across sectors, in the agricultural sectors through YAGEP, in the skill sector, whether in the area of tailoring, in the area of makeup, and many number of other related issues. even youths and other persons who may have learned one thing or the other but have not been fortunate or privileged to start off. Through our Riser and Westside program, we have also been able to integrate them. But we have one other one that also gladdens our heart, which is what we call JEST. Through the JEST program, we're able to accommodate girls between the age of 18 and 30. So these are a number of persons we believe before now that were not properly accommodated, the number of other skill acquisition programs that were introduced by the Okowa-led administration. And so in Delta today, it is going to be difficult for any political party or any other individual to toe a path that Senator Okowa is not doing, because most Deltans are looking forward to him showing the way. And he believes that through a very consultative forum, he'll be able to also get other leaders in the state to point to the way forward as he's winding down his administration ahead of the 2023 general elections. So we beat our chest that no other political party can afford to compete with the PDP in Delta. Beyond Delta being the home of PDP, Senator Okowa has also been able to leave a very, very bold footprint in the sense of time across the 25 local government areas. Perhaps in the course of this discussion, we'll also be able to let you know the things that were done in other senatorial districts, i.e. Delta Central and, of course, Delta South senatorial district. A number of infrastructure, like I said, cutting across a number of bridges. Today, we are building a particular, which is a completion of the work started by the previous administration, completing the Asaba-Ugelim highway. It's a dual carriageway. It gladdens our heart because it's going to shorten the distance between our commercial nerve center, which is Warri, and Asaba. And our people are happy for it. And so a whole lot of things is being done in Delta, and we give God the glory that we have the opportunity of working with a man that have ideas, and those ideas are yielding a lot of fruits in our state.
I mean, in our introduction there, we read that obviously the Okowa administration is winding down, and then that reawakens conversations about who will succeed this administration. And traditionally, when we look at Delta State, the governor isn't traditionally determined along ethnic lines. It's more of a senatorial decision, as you touched on earlier. But there have been calls for more of an ethnic representation when it comes to whoever will succeed Governor Okowa. What can you tell us about that, especially since when we do get to 2023, it would have been 16 years since Delta Central, I believe, would have been able to produce or rather would have been out of governor for 16 years. So as we had the opportunity to talk to you now, when we look at who will become the next governor of Delta State, will that decision be made along ethnic lines, or will it continue to face or be determined along previous lines, which is more of a senatorial district type of thing?
Deltans are looking forward to a very stronger Delta, a Delta where the hopes and aspirations of the people would be met. They are looking forward to having a leader in the next dispensation that will not only continue with what Senator Okowa is doing now, but that will deepen the processes of governance, and i.e. Ensuring that the infrastructures are maintained, and of course new ones being built, and at the same time continue with the youth empowerment programs that this administration have initiated. And so that becomes the first consideration. Then of course you talked about the issue of zoning and ethnic groups. The ethnic groups don't exist in isolation. They exist in senatorial districts. So anybody you choose, whether it belongs to one ethnic group or the other, certainly will belong to a particular senatorial district, whether Delta North, Delta Central, or Delta South. If you recall, sometime last year, I also had an interview with your team, including Rufai and, of course, you, Tudun, and my very senior brother in the profession, Ruben Abati. Where we did examine the issues of the zoning and order.
Just to correct you there, I'm actually I'm actually not the wonderful Tunde Abiola. My name is Adefemi Akintanya, and it would have been Please go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you. So, and we examined a whole lot of issues surrounding the zoning and all that. And I said that there is no written agreement as to where you are to zone to. That usually what happens is that the leaders come together, they look at the sentiments, and then begin to think that there is a need for inclusive governance. Now, the three senatorial districts have had a shot at the #1 seat in the state. And then the discussion is, beyond where we will go to, the most important thing is, how are we going to sustain development in our state? There are a whole lot of very, very credible Deltans that are taking a shot at the seat, particularly from Delta Central and Delta South. And these individuals are individuals who have also, what you may call, they can hold their own ground anytime, any day. They have been around. They have played one role or the other towards the advancement of the development agenda in the state since 1999, whether it's in Delta Central or in Delta South. Deltas are going to be the one to decide. But what is going to be most paramount is the need to sustain development of the state. There would be primaries where members of the party from across the 3 senatorial districts will gather and then elect whoever is going to become the flag bearer. I also recall pointing out in that last interview that at the end of the day, you have individuals from the different senatorial districts taking a shot. There has never been any time where we had election in Delta, right from 1999, where you just have one senatorial district contestant, and in which case that's the only senatorial district that will go and then take a shot at the primary. And then you are not talking about the PDP. This zoning you are talking about is the PDP. But if you are discussing politics in Delta, there are other political parties who may also decide wherever they want to go to. And in the course of the different primaries that have had, that election that have taken place in the state, all the senatorial districts participated. And at the end of the day, one person or the other emerged victorious, in line with the thinking of members of the party. What is going to happen in this 2022 is not going to be different. Everybody who is interested, by law, will be allowed to contest. Nobody is going to stop anybody. Of course, you know the law takes precedence. The sentiments of where we're going to go to is high, but it's up to those who will vote at the end of the day to decide who they are going to cast their ballot. But I'm very convinced that at the end of the day, Deltans will vote for competence, Deltans will vote for ability to unite us the more, Deltans will vote for continuation of the many good things that Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa is doing, and that is most paramount. And to that extent, I will want to urge you to just exercise patience, because Deltans will vote, and they will vote very, very wisely.
All right, Charles, I'd like to pick up from the last question by Adefemi, which is the first part of my question, which is to ask how much of influence will Governor Okowa have on in choosing his successor? We know that Delta is known almost like in Lagos State, where gadflies, decide who becomes governor. So will Governor Okowa join those that we know, the James Ibori, the Tompolos, and co, in choosing who will succeed him? Yes, the sentiments about which senatorial district his successor will come from will play out, but then will he have a say as to who will succeed him? Secondly, you have spoken to us neatly about what the governor has spent money on, is spending money on as a roadmaster. What you have not shared with us is how is he making money for Delta outside of going to Abuja and collecting money, outside of the 13% derivation funds that Delta as an oil-producing state enjoys. When Governor Uduaghan was there, one of his buzzwords was Delta beyond oil, and he was clear about the areas where he thought that he could raise money. What is the level of your IGR now, and what has Governor Okowa done differently in raising money that has now conferred on him the title of a roadmaster?
Well, I will start from the last part of your question, and let me make this correction, because there have always been this erroneous impression that people are going to Abuja to collect money, as if Abuja made the money. These monies you are talking about that individuals are going to Abuja to collect is part of the abnormalities in our federation. You take the monies from the state, you gather the money in Abuja, and you invite the people to come to Abuja and collect some portrait sums, and everybody will say, how side going to Abuja to collect the money? Is there any area in Abuja that is generating revenue for anybody? These revenues comes from even largely Delta being the #1 oil-producing state. This is a God-given word, but because we believe that we are a federation and we need to exist as one, we did not begrudge the decision of the government of the federation to have a pool where these funds are assembled and individuals are invited.
Abuja generates VAT, by the way.
And the VAT that it generates flows. Yes, every other state does.
Yeah.
The reason why Abuja generates VAT is because the bulk of the money that comes from the state is used in Abuja. Not that Abuja has any other thing that is doing like any other state that is generating funds. But beyond that, I want to tell you that so much is also being done by the administration of Okowa to indeed expand our revenue net internally here. The number of youths that we have turned into entrepreneurs are paying taxes. beyond the fact that they are now also contributing their own quota to the GDP of the state, they have also been taken away from the unemployment state where they could remain as dependents. They are also training a whole number of persons, in which case more hands are being put on the plow for the purpose of developing and building a much more viral economy in Delta. But that's not all. We have also cleaned up our process of land administration such that we are now able to get a reasonable amount of revenue from that. We were at about 4-point-something billion when we came in, but today we are going far beyond that in terms of monthly IGR generation. But we didn't want to come in and say because we wanted IGR to just begin to tax our people without first of all ensuring that they are empowered. Otherwise, that will be widening the gap between the rich and the poor, and at the same time putting more pain on the part of the poor, and because of the nature of our taxing system in our country. So what we did is to first of all ensure that the people have money. Building of those roads is because we want to what we call link up communities. I told you earlier in the course of my introductory remarks that we have built bridges of possibilities. These possibilities means that we have now linked up communities so that those who produce can have access to markets. We have built a whole number of markets, even if it's within the purview of the local government administration, but we have built bigger markets because we believe that the local government may not have the wherewithal to build such type of markets. Today, we are building, first of its kind, a floating market in a place called Ogoye in Warren North local government area. When you get to that place, you see that it's a marvel what we have done to ensure that our people, both those even coming in from the swampy area of Ondo, the larger houses, and then some of our brothers and sisters who live in the creeks can converge on the Ogoye floating market and do business and at the same time interact with their kids and kin in the upland. We have been able to also link up communities in Ughelli South and a number of other areas. Even today as we speak, we are building the first bridge across the Ase Creek between Indokwa East and Indokwa West. Called the bridge is called I will remember the name. That bridge is to be able to link them up so that at the end of the day, our brothers and sisters in Indokwa West and Indokwa East can afford to interact and do business. When you link up people through the construction of roads, you have been able to give them opportunity to also produce, in which case, teaching them how to fish and not just giving them fish. The amount of development and the ease of doing business that were brought to bear in Delta, and most importantly, the issue of the peace and harmony that exists, has brought in a whole lot of investors. Those investors are not bringing in the money from Delta. They are bringing it from outside the state, both within the country and outside the country, to the extent that today we have a whole lot of businesses that have been built in Delta. A number of high-profile persons in the entertainment industry now converge on the state for the purpose of relaxation, and each person who comes in with money. Our airport, which has been concession and first of all, again, of its kind in the country, is also yielding a whole lot of revenue in that direction because a number of our brothers and sisters have been employed. So a number of persons that have been engaged in the private sector has been on the rise on account of these different investments that are coming into the state. Now, let me go back to the issue you also raised earlier with respect to the influence of Okowa as it affects the 2023 election. Let me tell you that Okowa, being who he is, will not even want to influence who become. But his personality and his performance and achievement will definitely influence who is going to become the next governor of Delta State. And how would that happen? A number of Deltans are very much aware of the extent of investment Senator Okowa's administration has put into the state, both in terms of infrastructure and in terms of human capital development. And because of that, naturally, it also controls their own thinking. They have a say, and all of them are saying, please, Governor, let us know where to go, because we believe that if you are so clean and understands the development that you have brought to our state, that you will also be able to understand the kind of person that will sustain this kind of development. That personality and his own effort in developing the state is what is actually playing a major role than he as an individual. Of course, even if you are in a court, the chief judge is allowed, in spite of the fact that the symbol of justice is blindfolded, the judges are still allowed to have opinion. That's why sometimes in judgment you have divergent views, and then you have a majority judgment and minority judgment. That means that the judges can have an opinion in a case. Otherwise, all of them would have reasoned in one direction. The governors and the presidents are allowed to vote in an election, even in the primary. The moment the law agrees that they can vote and you can only have one vote, it means that the law believes that you should also be able to have an opinion or a favorite. Perhaps his favorite will be kept to his chest because that is his own political decision. the same way any other person votes and votes secretly. But in terms of influence as to where we are going, as to who is going to become, Okowa will not put his own person on the line. But his performance will speak very, very loud. His personality will speak very, very loud. You may want to talk about body language. The body language of Okowa will flow from the achievements he has recorded in the last 7.5 years, in the last 6.5 years, and of course, turning into 7 years. And we are quite convinced that Delta, by the grace of God, under Okowa, will get it right.
You think those will be sufficient to stop the perceived onslaught that is expected from, say, Anoma Agege, of the APC, that people think that will come and give the PDP, a major, major challenge? Do you think that all that you have reeled out will be sufficient to stop Anoma Agege coming on board?
Delta is one of the states in Nigeria clearly classified as educationally advantaged. What that means is that Deltans, like we say, Delta not they carry last. What that means that we are that informed as to be able to take the wise decision. The question is, those you think are coming with an onslaught, what are they going to put on the table? I have mentioned what the PDP in Delta State can put on the table. We now have a much better state capital. We are now also trying to control flood in places like Warri, which will also pave way for more advancement in terms of the road network, which we have even started before now. We now have bridges of possibility linking up communities. We now have a worker city. We now have a more functional airport. We now have the headquarters of Nollywood in the country. We have been able to take a number of youths off the street on account of our different intervention in job creation and empowerment programs that the government have initiated. The government came on board with a 5-point agenda codenamed SMART, and this SMART embodied policy priorities aimed at creating prosperity for the people of Delta. And to the best of my knowledge, and of course to the knowledge of a number of Deltans who can testify that much have been achieved in that direction. A number of urban centers have been built. So we'll put all this on the table, and then we'll ask those who want to also aspire to become, which of course the law allows them, to bring on board and let Deltans also assess who means well and who have done well so far. And so we are not disturbed because we believe that we have performed. And Deltans will judge PDP based on performance. Deltans will judge Okowa based on performance. And the reason why we can beat our chest, even when we showcase what we are doing in Delta State, we said we are not for any reason going to showcase anything that looks like a prototype. We will show you exact programs and projects that are on ground. And when you come in anytime, any day, you will see them. When we tell you that we are building an interchange in the Koka Junction, which will link the other part of Asaba from Ibuzo to the main city in Asaba, here in the state capital, you will see that the bridge is being built. When we tell you that we have built bridges in Oge, and that we have built bridge in Owo, and that we have built bridges even in the riverine communities, and that we're also building 19 bridges to link up our brothers and sisters in Trans-Warri area, and that we have been able to transform Ode Shekiri, and that we have built very long roads, even in the creeks, particularly in the Brutu Aziz and of course Warri Southwest. You will see those projects on ground. These projects are the things we will put on ground for Deltans. So anybody who is coming, we have to showcase. Let me tell you the challenge they are having at the moment. The challenge of having to criticize Okowa is a major challenge for those in the opposition.
Charles Aniagwu, we have run out of time. I know there was a lot more you wanted to say.
Absolutely.
But we have run out of time.
On the bridges of possibilities.
Yes.
But Charles will also understand that there are also politics of So we wait and see what happens later in the year when the political scene will get heated up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.